about to start, right? We're 10 o'clock.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 14, 20, 100, or whatever the shutdown is. A little housekeeping this morning. Cantor Nimi will be singing us in and singing us out. We will be devoting most of today, I'll get right back to you, most of today to reading the Psalm 5 offerings. I have an awful lot. I got Psalm 5 offerings. I got some offerings that were 1 through 5, some that were earlier, but there's a lot to read and we don't want to rush anyone. So we'll be starting with Psalm 5 today. We will probably go over tomorrow with a little bit more Psalm 5, and then we will backtrack. And then we have a guest tomorrow, right, Rabbi?
Yes.
Who is our guest tomorrow?
Our guest is a professor from Boston Hebrew College Rabbinical School named Or Rose. And Or, I think I mentioned at some one point, who can remember, that Or is doing a multi-faith project about Psalms for 18 weeks. And when he heard about our project, he wanted to join our class for a day and just experience our studying together. But I also asked him to do a little presentation about his project, which is so interesting. And as I mentioned, there are all different ways and he'll talk about why they're doing it. And they're doing it with a Christian group, very interesting. And it's gonna be a very interesting resource for all of us also, because it's gonna go online with all different explorations. But as I said, they're only doing greatest hits. They're not doing the thorough start at the beginning and move through. And they're gonna be starting with Psalm 23. So I thought it'd be really interesting for all of us to hear about, again, inspired by this moment in history, to explore Psalms. And so he's going to join us tomorrow. He'll do a short presentation about what his project is, and then he's just going to join our class.
And I would, before Cantor Nimi starts, like to welcome someone new, my friend Juhi Mala, who is a member of Scriptural Reasoning, our interfaith group, one of the coordinators. Juhi is Muslim. And
welcome.
One of my close Muslim, one of the Muslim sisters I am blessed to have part of my life.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Welcome, Juhi.
Thank you.
So, Cantor Nimi, I will put up your text and we should be ready to go. How's that?
And to you, Juhi, we want to say Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome.
Yes, welcome. We're going to continue a little bit with the vein of Matovu, but I'm not sure how it's showing up for others. On my screen, the text is not all showing up.
Okay, let me relaunch that.
While you're doing that, I'll just mention that I wrote this setting of Matovu back in like 2014. I think it was the summer between my first and second year of cantorial school. And I have such a strong memory of the first time I brought it into Joyce's office in the basement of HUC. She did not know me very well then. And so it's just, singing this just brings me back to when I was first starting to get to know Joyce and when she first encouraged me to come to CBST.
And the text is now up, Jacob, correct?
Yes, I see it, yes.
Israel.
Beautiful, beautiful, Jacob. Thank you. I love thinking of you, showing really in the new part of knowing Joyce, and that helped Joyce got you to come to CBST. And now here we are. Look at this. It's fantastic. So I have a tech insight that I learned yesterday that I want to share with everybody, which I'm so excited about. And does everybody know that if you don't want to see yourself on one of these Zoom calls, there's a way to hide your own, your self view? So if you, one of the reasons they're saying that Zoom is stressful is that people get stressed out seeing themselves and worrying how they look and what their hair looks like and whether the blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm going to tell everybody you have a choice. So if you take your cursor to the upper right-hand corner of your picture, of your little tile or square, whatever we call them, there are 3 dots. Do you see that? I can't believe this is what I'm teaching, but here we go. So if you click on those 3 dots, you can see it says hide self-view. So if you hide self-view, it means everybody else can see you, which we want. But if you don't want to be looking at yourself, which I know for me makes me crazy, you could hide self-view and then not see yourself and just look at the class. Like it would be if you were in a normal class, you wouldn't be seeing yourself the whole time. Everybody see that?
Well, you actually do it on your own little tile too. If you click
your own tile. That's what I'm saying. It's on your own tile.
Everything is hide self-view.
And then how do you do it?
But not on a cell phone.
Okay, so forget it. Cell phone, I don't think can do it. Only on a computer.
How do you undo it once you do it?
There's, let's see, we do hide.
Your tile is gone.
What? You're gone forever. Then it says, then up on the top of the screen, it'll say show self view.
Got it.
And then you can put it back on.
So the rabbi told us how to make ourselves disappear, but didn't tell us how to get ourselves back.
No, only to disappear to yourselves. If you find it distracting to see yourself on the screen, it's a very nice feature. You can use it or not use it. I'm just saying I learned something new, so I'm sharing it with everybody.
So
okay.
I posted and we'll post again one last time in the chat the order in which we'll be reading, so people are ready to go. If you send something in and you don't see your name, it's possibly because it was for an earlier psalm, or I'm going to be featuring your work in some other way. We are not looking to jump over everybody. There was just a question about Jacob putting the recordings of his pieces on Facebook, which I will let him think about and respond separately as to whether he wants to upload them to his wherever service that he is in. But when we come back to you at the end, Jacob, you can give us an answer about hearing these things that you have recorded. So
and maybe Jacob should do one of the psalms, the song that he wrote in response to being in the class tomorrow, so Or Rose could hear that, since that's a creation of the class. Will you be with us tomorrow, Jacob?
Yes, I'll be with you tomorrow, and I'm happy to offer that for our guests.
Because it comes out of this class, so it'd be another expression. Okay.
Okay, hold on just one second. Let me juggle a little here. Let me exit, enter full screen, exit full screen. Okay. Are we seeing Marcia Melnick's psalm or not?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So Marcia Melnick, you are up.
I have to unmute. Thank you.
That is correct.
Okay, so this is not obviously in relation to any one particular psalm, but it's really in honor of this class.
Wow.
I woke up this morning thinking of all your names. Adonai, Yud-He, Vav-He, Yah, El, Elohim. I know there are many more. Shekhinah. It's probably not biblical Hebrew, so maybe it doesn't ever appear in the Psalms, but I am partial to it. I'm wondering, do you have a preference, or are they all equal? Or doesn't it matter as long as I call every now and then? By the way, I've had many names in my life too. I laugh when I think of them, some from my childhood inspired by my initials. Marshmallow, Mickey Mouse, Marilyn Monroe, Mickey Mantle. You can imagine, those never stuck, but you know how kids are. There were ones affectionately penned by my mom on letters to me at camp. Marshall Lee, Monkey Face, Sugar Plum, Sweetie Pie, until there was no more space left to write. I felt her love all the way from Sheepshead Bay to Mayapack. In case you were wondering, my adult names have been everything from Mosh Shash, Moisha Pupik, which is a story for another day. Mostly Marcia, which I alternately like, but don't absolutely love. It's a journey less about my name and more about self-love. So let's get back to you, the source. I'll never forget the first time I met you. I was 12 and I had just chanted my Haftorah. It was Shabbat Hagadol. I stood before the opened ark and the rabbi placed his hands on my shoulders as he intoned the priestly blessing in his patriarchal way. You were definitely Yud-He Vav-He then, and I felt your presence. I felt showered with unconditional love. I cried, overwhelmed by your light, your warmth. You knew my name. I didn't know then what I know now. I was craving to be seen, to be heard. I was craving unconditional love, self-love, and you. To this day, I am moved to tears whenever I receive that prayer. Head bent, arm in arm with family and friends, and tali totes spread over us. I have to admit, you are a tough cookie, and for a long time you came and went. Our relationship was certainly challenged. This marvelous creation of yours has been screwed up for ages, and it's really been unbearable of late to contemplate all the pain and suffering and damages unthinkingly wrought by your people, me included. So here I am, 60 years later, in the midst of a pandemic, finding your presence everywhere, parsing Psalms in community, letter by letter, word by word, seeing you in the faces of my classmates, their myriad creations, and my teachers, feeling you near. Spring is unfolding everywhere. The daffodils, the grape hyacinth, the lilies of the valley, the moss softening the rocks, and even the weeds. Turkeys bathing, swans mating, phoebes nesting, gophers, squirrels, and more. And oh, your mesmerizing skies. Thank you, however you prefer to be called. Forget I ever asked. I'm guessing you don't have a preference, Infinite One. I know how to reach you, and you answer me. Let's keep talking. Okay.
Breathtaking. Wow. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, Marcia?
Well, it's, obviously, I think all the close reading of the Psalms has brought me closer to thinking about all the names. And we always talk about the myriad names that we have in life and God's name. So that really has opened the Psalms up for me because, I noticed that you keep stressing always where the Yud-He Vav-He, and then it gets translated as the Lord, which is fun. When I've read the Psalms before, I've read them in the Tehillim Sudam, and they're not accessible to me because of the language of the translation. So I feel that there's a huge shift. I'm more open now because of this class to thinking about the Psalms and reading them, but I definitely need these translations from other, people. And the rest is, pretty self-evident on so many levels, because I realized afterwards it's almost like a little spiritual autobiography. It's kind of the place when I was 12, when, oh my God, I got dressed up in this pink dress, whatever the hell it was, and I felt like I was in drag. I didn't know I didn't know it then. But it was such a hard time, and that connection to God at that moment, whatever I would call God, certainly is different to my connection now to God. And so much of it is connected to community. Anyway, that's about
And
all.
it's so moving that even with that gap in your experience when you were 12, you still experience something powerful that continues to feed it when you're in your own community as an adult, when you've developed your own name, your own identity. It still has meaning, and I think that's very powerful.
Yeah,
It's not just a rejection. It's integrating it onto a different level. Harold, can you go back to the top of this one too? And I think it's just magnificent the way that you go into that one word, the explanation of God's name, to explore your own. And of course, we believe that the best reflection of God's presence in the world is the reflection of our faces, so to speak. So it's a brilliant exploration of if we're all created in God's image, then by understanding ourselves a little bit better, we end up understanding whatever it means, whatever word, whatever language we're talking about God. So that's just magnificent. Really, really.
Well,
But I do want to hear the Moishe Pupik story someday.
okay.
All right. Is Stephen
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Is Stephen Deem here?
Hi
today?
there.
Okay. You're
And now
up.
we know how to pronounce your name.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Mash. No. Depends on who's talking.
Yeah. Okay, Stephen.
Okay, thanks. A meditation inspired by Psalm 5. I can't see myself. Am I on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Dreaming awake in the morning before I open my eyes, the letters of your name appear. H-E-A-L, heal. Heartbeats, inhalations, neurons and synapses, cells, atoms, spark, positive and negative, impulses, chemical messages, see, hear, feel, smell, taste. This is your holy space. Help me to overcome my negative impulses, destroy and transform evil speech, deception, cast out my limiting beliefs. Fill me with creativity, righteous impulse, and action. I wear your light as my shelter and my shield. Holy, eternal, abundant light. H-E-A-L, heal. This is my meditation.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about it, about
Well,
writing.
thank you. It was a hard one. I started writing probably on Tuesday, and I was writing all through our discussions. I kind of missed a lot of it, and I couldn't find what I really wanted to say. I wanted to talk about the difference between the God of the Psalms, which is an external God that's looking down and passing judgment, and the personal God that we have in meditation. And I kind of wanted to find that personal God, so these meditations of Psalms can be useful to me in my life. And I practice hypnosis, so I was trying to bring it into something that could be a trance induction. And finally,
Well, hold on. What do you mean by trans induction?
trance induction, like in
What does that mean?
hypnosis. If
Trance. Got
Trance.
it. Okay. Sorry. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so I was trying to take the elements of hypnosis and adding it to the spirituality to see how I can give myself and other people a meditation to start the day with. And that's my interpretation of what Psalm 5 is trying to do.
Well, I love it. And first of all, I think that you're getting to the heart of the God of the Psalms. And I think there's been we've been handed a bad gloss of the Psalms that we have only, and I agree with Marcia that the classic translations obscure, I think, the deeper meaning of the Psalms and what I believe are at the core of the Psalms, not just because I'm being abstract about it, but it's hard if you don't have this relationship to it. And I think that's why it's so profound to write our own, to get at what would this mean. So I think you are getting at, it's not that you're doing something beyond what the Psalm meant. I think you're getting at the core of what the Psalm means. Absolutely. And I love the idea that healing and finding a way to, and I love the echo of Yud He Vav He to H-E-A. I love that echo. I hear that. And
Okay,
the four-letter name of God here is heal, which is profound and beautiful that God wants from all of us to overcome our negative nature, to destroy and transform evil speech, deception, casting out our limited beliefs. All of this is found in the words of the Psalm, but in a way that it's hard for us to get to. And you've created an access. and to I wear your light as my shelter and protective shield. Just beautiful. Holy, eternal, abundant light. Yud He Vav He. Love that. So I think you're absolutely getting at the core of its meaning. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Michael Goldstein. Michael, are you here today?
I think I saw Michael.
Michael, if you're here, unmute yourself. I'm not looking
Yeah,
at
I'm on. Do you hear me?
Okay,
Oh,
great.
no, we hear you now.
Okay,
You're up.
before I start, I want to thank the discussion group. Last week, I said, why 150? It's repetitive. And Rabbi asked me what I thought, and I said it was indoctrination, and she said it's a negative word, what else? And then it was open for discussion. I believe it was Adria Benjamin who said it's like exercise and weightlifting. The more you do, the stronger you get. Did she say that? If so, or whoever said it, meant a lot to me. And when I sat down over the weekend to do Psalm 5, I really, really got into it. Now I'm into translation, so I didn't do what the last person just did and write a poem about what Psalms mean to me. I just used the 5th Psalm and I wrote this. So I'm ready
Perfect.
to
And remember, every translation is an interpretation, and every interpretation is a form of translation. So don't worry about which is what. Just do whatever you feel like doing when you write.
But since writing this 5th Psalm, the weightlifting has meant a lot to me, and I feel more close to what the Psalms are meaning to me, and I'm internalizing more. Here it is.
Great.
1, a Psalm of David created for an accomplished musician. Listen to my prayer, O Lord. Address my words. Hear me beseeching my sovereign as I am appealing to you, my God. At daybreak, you, God, know it is my music. After dawn, I express my concerns and anticipate your response. You are not a God condoning meanness. Nothing bad dwells with you. In your ethos, degenerates have no place. You despise every reprobate. You demolish those who speak falsehoods. You abhor humans who violently wound and deceive. For myself, I enter your temple through its welcoming open door. I bend in your holy place in awe of you. O Lord, show me the way through your rightfulness. In reaction to my enemies, show me the clear path ahead. Liars speak only untruths. Their glib speech prepares their doom. O God, sentence evildoers to falter because of their numerous crimes. Reject those who have not heeded your guidance. Permit those who have faith in you to eternally celebrate your shield. They rejoice in you, Adonai. O Lord, you protect those who follow you. It is your garland of everlasting love.
Wow. So I love that you follow that. We could see the 13 verses. So you're following the arc of the Psalm itself and trying to make sense of the words within the Psalm word by word. And I like this. At daybreak, you, God, know it is my music. That is a very beautiful line. Do you want to say anything else about the choices you've made here in your process of doing this?
The very last line. Go down to the very last line.
Line 13. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, oh Lord, you protect those who follow you. It is your garland of everlasting love. Now, I use the word garland because I went to a dictionary and I found synonyms for crown. Garland can be it's a rope of flowers that you put on your head. Now, I used that, and then I said, it is your garland of everlasting love. And the love, I didn't know how to say it another way, but it's not only God's love to us, but it's our love of God. It's just the concept of love, which is, it's a two-way interaction. When you love, there's an object, and the object and you are interacting in a feeling, which is the shared love. So, oh Lord, you protect those who follow you. It is your garland of everlasting love, and the everlasting love is love back and forth.
Fantastic. And boy, Garland has a different feel than Crown, doesn't it?
That's why I picked it. I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah. So there you go. That's and the Hebrew, of course, has all of this range. So that's fantastic. By choosing that one in English, you are bringing us to one place on the range. Beautiful, Michael. I'm just fantastic.
I don't know Hebrew, so it's interesting for me to hear your gloss on each Hebrew word and the lettering within each word. It's way over my head, but I'm using the English translation, usually the altar, but then I look at some of the others I printed out
That's
as well.
totally legitimate. Totally legitimate. Fantastic.
Mr. Jeremy Lawrence.
Hi. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My Psalm 5. Conductor, lift your baton. Let the winds lead my song. Give ear unpronounceable. It's time you pronounced me. If it's your will, my will to be yours. I cry out to you, my God, my creator, if you are. Create a new day, break the dark as I wait, expectant that soon your wind will start singing my song. For no God of mine can darkness desire, my God will not tolerate wrong. Bullies will melt in the light of your eyes. You detest these men with their murders and lies who strangulate truth to keep power. And I praise the mercy you offer to me. I enter your house and in awe bend to thee. Hashem, steer my way, lead me straight to your path, away from my foes, away from their wrath. They pretend to be friends, their lips dribble disease, hatred beats in their hearts, and their empty throats yearn for corpses to squeeze. Their slippery tongues penetrate me with ease. Let them be undone by their mutinous ways, upend their rebellion. You are many in one, take your strength from my undying praise. In your holy name we will sing and rejoice. Surely now you will favor us. Will be your choice. The righteous will be healed with your love. All that we are to you we will yield. We will live in your thrall, neath the strength of your shield. Is this where I really belong? Confined by a shield, singing praises to God. What should seem so right all feels somehow wrong. Conductor, lift your baton. In this movement, the winds will again lead my song. Whose breath is the wind that's blown my life here? The life that I knew will not reappear.
Amazing, Jeremy. And we so deeply benefit from your incredible talent as a performer. And folks should know Jeremy is a well-known and fabulous performer. And just listening to you is such an incredible joy. But do you want to talk a little bit about it and writing it?
I began trying to deal with the psalm line by line, as you can see.
Yep.
And once I finished the first 13, I was really uncomfortable. It's a sort of conversion psalm, but it's also a bargain psalm.
Yep.
And then I felt I had to say what I really felt. And so I wrote some more, and then I wasn't happy with that. And I wrote that final couplet about, well, I wrote it about three or four times. Poor Harold had to put up with the final change. I hope that it's filled with ambiguities.
It is certainly filled with ambiguities. And I think, Jeremy, you're also modeling something very important, I think, for the whole class to notice. That if you aren't immediately inspired by a psalm, for instance, and you want to sit down and try and write something, the first place is to do exactly what Michael and Jeremy did, which is go through it line by line and see if you can make meaning out of each sentence. You know, don't worry about what the final product will be. Try and say, is there a way to make this in language that's meaningful to me, that I can relate to, that says something? That's always the first place to start, is to try and say, okay, what's the structure of the psalm? How do I get from the first verse to the last verse? And I just love, Jeremy, what you've done here is to say, okay, you did that and you did it in a beautiful way that I found insight. And there are some, just incredible language you're using. And then to say, doubt continues to be such a Jewish expression, to find a way to say something in the most beautiful and meaningful and full of ambiguity. And then at the end say, hold on, is this really where I am? But using this language of conductor and music in a very unique way is magnificent. But I think both the expression of it and then the doubt of it and the deep ambiguities all throughout are very deep in Jewish tradition. And I really appreciate it and you. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Lori Krotman.
Okay, here we go. I was just very angry last week. I wrote this poem. I wrote this before we started talking about 5, and it's a horrible place when you're stuck in anger. It's just so negative and not good. And I forget all the time what I need to do to get out of that rotten place. So this psalm really spoke to me about that. So that's what I did. So Psalm 5, an attempt to gain equilibrium with music swaying in the background. Does anyone hear me? When I cry out loud, does anyone hear me? Does my pain land anywhere meaningful? Who listens to my heart when I open it fully to everything that is and was and will always be? When I wake up from a deep sleep, does anyone hear my sighs as I attempt to rise from the slumber that blanketed me during the night? Darkness creeps around even during the day and spreads suffering and distress wherever it lands. But black is just the absence of color and cannot endure. It is doomed to extinguish itself, fizzle out, turn to ash. I slather myself with the lightness of being, immerse myself in the steadiness of the moment that never fails me when I surrender to it. Who cares what comes out of their blubbery lips, their crooked hearts, their gravelly throats, their bloated tongues? Those who try to bring me down will choke on their own vomit. Their skin will fester and burn. Their hearts will shrivel and turn to ash. But those who seek shelter from the storm by turning inward and looking upward will always find love. It waits for them just around the corner. The wonder and awe of the universe is always there when you remember to look for it.
Mm. So speak to us a little bit about about writing it.
Well, for me, it's a question of noticing that I'm somewhere that's not in the present moment. I think I've said this before. When I'm here and now, I'm okay, but I forget it all the time, as we all do. And sometimes I don't want to remember it because it's more comfortable to just do these, to suffer. Sometimes suffering feels, when I suffer, I kind of know what to do.
It's familiar.
It's familiar.
Yep.
And when I do, it's like standing on the edge of a pin. In 1 second, I can stop it, and I can also stay in it. So it's reminding myself to surrender. And it's not about, the other people out there, the disgustingness of what other people are saying. It's an internal job for me. And that's where God is, inside me, always, if I remember to look. So that's really what the poem said to me.
So I think it's really great, Lori. And I want to say that it's very interesting to hear, for instance, Jeremy, I wouldn't say he's apologetic about it because I don't think he is, but I think, or he's aware that we might not be comfortable with ambiguity, and you're similar about your anger. These deep profoundly human emotions and perspectives are deeply Jewish. Anger, despair, ambiguity, doubt, all of that is within these Psalms. So that you're lifting out a particular thing like anger and relating to that, even though you don't want to, or is really genuinely, deeply authentic. I don't know how else to say it. We're going to hit a couple of Psalms, like Psalm 6 and Psalm 13 in particular, which express anger. You'll see a lot more of it. The point is not that those are bad feelings, any of them, but rather, as you've asked, what do I do with it? Do I stay in it? Do I try and find a way to move out of it? Is it and to recognize that the anger itself is so human, as is the despair and the depression and the and giving ups. The question is, can we remember when we're in the midst of it that there is another way, even if we can't even get there? Even if we can't get there, the first step is remembering, hold on, this isn't necessarily where I have to be forever, even if I don't have the energy or the motivation to get myself out of it right now. And part of the repetition of the Psalms for me is that wherever I am, it can remind me there are other places that I might remember from my own life, or kind of my faith in the universe helps me remind myself that this isn't what it is forever, even if it feels that way. Feelings are powerful, but they're not necessarily the unlimited reality. And so I love the expression of the anger, and you'll see it over and over again in the Psalms. And sometimes, as we've seen, the language is off-putting, but what you've done beautifully, and I think everybody today has done really beautifully, is when there are references to the evil on the outside, if the place where you are is dealing with stuff internal, those demons are for sure inside of all of us. Deception, lying, greed, envy, hate. You don't really have to stay outside to recognize all of those feelings. Anyway, so thank you for this. And stay authentic, stay honest, stay with the actual feelings you have, the actual reactions you have to a Psalm. And if you do, you will create something that's deep art. Don't worry about trying to do something else, because that's what makes it meaningful. So thank you.
Mr. Peter Klein. Peter, are you here today?
Okay, here we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Part 1. If we utter that word, shrapnel, cue war flutes. But then, or by design, we forgot how it sounded. Just as well, too many sacrifices. And what sacrifices have you made? Your name is so private, we are damned to say. Somewhere along the way, you forgot my name, so wake up and listen. I know my name, given on your last working day. Were you too tired to think it through, this odd idea, a toyland for a god, created by an uttered word? But what word should we utter when we need you to hold up your end of the bargain? Page 2. Part 2, Tongue Palace. Bear with me a second as I scroll up. We know the basics: slander, deceit, envy, murder, blind rage, all the madness and flaws. So we covet the trinkets and dross, food, shelter, warmth, caress, small comforts I won't deny. You say blame yourselves, I just got the ball rolling. But I am not satisfied, as we are as made to order. So burn the books along with the bodies. But after hearing Jacob name me, Part 3, Refuge. When I lay me down, will I rise? My brother David doesn't recall Dad carrying me around as a babe or holding my hand as we walked through our settlement. And so I thought I was always on my own. But there he was, sitting beside me, reading chem abstracts as I emerged from anesthesia. My first surgery, the first intervention. It's a very nice thing for a boy to have It's a very nice thing for a boy to have his father there, silent, but present, when my heart was stopped, restarted, all from a tear in the knee. We bent our knees, and then, somehow like music, I'm lifted up, righteous, and nestled against harm, and sleep rare, as I, the fugitive in pastures of gratefulness.
Wow. Peter, that is so beautiful. Would you talk to us a little bit?
If I can, okay.
Yes.
This last week was almost a perfect storm. We were studying Psalms. In the calendar, we're reading Leviticus and the sacrifices, and some of us are studying Perkei Avot, which is sort of how one deals with all the difficulties of Talmud and Torah and how to become a human being. And I apologize to Rabbi Moskowitz, but I'm following the Chabad version, not his. And I have people to thank, yourself and obviously Cantor Nimi, who just opened up a floodgate last Monday. And also to rabbinical intern Deb Migdal. So this whole last week sort of moved me from the first part, which is really easy for someone who has a lot of questions and resentment about Torah and yet love of Torah, and how one moves through it emotionally. And so this all came together. Some of us spent our childhoods, however enriched it was, in a kind of Mitzrayim, in a narrow place. And now we are literally, in terms of Torah, we're in Bamidbar, and we're trying to figure out how do we go to realization. So I sometimes wonder if it's difficult for children whose early childhood wasn't necessarily embraced in terms of obvious signs of love and affection, and how difficult it is to accept a beneficent God. And yet, both my parents have passed, and as I look back, and there is more and more evidence of how their decisions were so purposeful towards my brother and myself that it still chokes me up. So I thank everybody who's been in the class. There's a kind of genetic epistemology that I realize from father to grandfather and all the way back, how our behaviors are taught, and then how we begin to reframe them. So I think this is about rediscovering parental love as much as anything else.
And sleep rare, and as I, the fugitive in pastures of gratefulness. Wow, Peter.
Well, thank you. I think the transition is all from a tear in the knee, we bend our knees.
Yep.
And then I think that's the transition. There's probably a part that needs to be written, added to that. I think most poems are in medias res till some later moment. But this last part, I think, is closest to Hebrew in the absence of working verbs, of being verbs. And thank you.
Really, really beautiful. And so moving to hear you read these words, and we get a deep insight into that moment, that the words with your voice, hearing about the knee and the father, really, really beautiful. I'm very moved by what we've read today. And I think that's it, what we can do for today. We'll hold off the others for tomorrow. And I want to thank everybody over and over again. I want to offer a few other, just also some housekeeping and some words. So this week, I'm trying to take a slower week in order to kind of rest up. I feel like we're at a fulcrum moment of history, that we're out of the peak of the first, our first peak is now shifting downward. I'm sure there will be other peaks, but we're moving into a little bit of a stabler time, I think, for a while. There will be more peaks. And the one thing I didn't want to give up this week is studying Psalms with you. So I'm not doing any of my meetings this week, but I am studying with Psalms. And tonight we're doing a town hall, which I urge everybody to come to. And we're going to discuss kind of what's the state of the synagogue now. What is this, 8 or 9 weeks or 10 weeks? Something like that into it. And we did that initial discussion about how we're doing financially, and also how we're going to handle moving forward and the High Holy Days. And we're going to do a little preview of the June 7th concert, which is critically important for CBST's budget, by the way, not only to create gorgeous art and culture, But honestly, folks, we got to raise some money to keep the budget healthy. And the budget is, of course, under stress, as is every budget in the world right now. So every little bit helps. Remember that. If you have $5, $10, that helps. Don't think it doesn't help. So Adria is going to play 2 minutes worth of something tonight, which will be a surprise to us. But I didn't get back to Adria to tell her what I thought she should do. So I'll let Adria just decide. So we get a little bit of music tonight as well. So join us if you can from 6 to 7. And the other thing is that we're going to have another semester, so to speak, after Shavuot, kind of from June 15th to August 15th-ish. I'll keep teaching Psalms all the way through, but there'll be some other classes. Rabbi Moskowitz is going to teach kind of a introduction to studying Mishnah beyond Pirkei Avot. That's going to be a little bit more text study and a little longer than half an hour for those 2 months. So people who want to learn some more text studying skills, perfect opportunity. We're going to do a little Hebrew teaching. So look out for those things. And I wanted to know if I could have people's permission to show Or Rose some of the writings that you've all done before he comes to class tomorrow. Maybe if you don't want me to do that, Harold, how should we handle that?
Everybody has my email. If for any reason you want your writings not to be shared, let me know.
He doesn't have permission to do anything with it. I would just like him to see what, you know.
Right, so everybody has my email. Just email me and let me know.
That's okay. I think that would be lovely for him to see
Yeah.
some of these writings before he joins us tomorrow. And yes, so I think that's it and we'll join together tomorrow. And I'm just really so moved. Thank you all.
So I'm going to be sending out an email. There a little bit of pre-preparation for Psalm 6 and some other issues we've been discussing. And Cantor Nimi can either tell us today or whenever he feels ready to, how he will be sharing his beautiful songs with us so that we can listen to them outside of class. And with that, Cantor Nimi, I will put up your Ma Tovu and you can sing us out.
Sure. And yes, I think my plan is to get at least a draft recording. It won't be anything really fancy. I'll be using my USB microphone here, but to get something up on SoundCloud and then putting the link into the Facebook group so that people can listen at their...
Let us know.
Will do. And again, I also want to just echo what Rabbi Kleinbaum said. I have just been so moved by people's offerings today and really grateful to be in this space where we can learn from and be inspired by each other. So thank you all.
Israel, Atovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ishkenotecha Israel, Ani Berov Chastecha Avo.
Thank you, everybody. See you at the town hall tonight. And to our Muslim friend joining us today, Ramadan Mubarak. Bye-bye, everybody.
And if I could ask, is it by bet today to leave the room open for just a little? Poets, if you could look up in the chat, there are always beautiful, beautiful comments while you're reading that you don't get to see. So I'm going to leave you a minute to go in that chat and take a look.
Yes, the room stays open for about 10 minutes or
Great.
until everybody leaves.
Okay. So take
Ramadan,
take a look.
Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Mubarak. Okay, everybody. What a wonderful day of offerings. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Those I don't see tonight at either the town hall or at Rabbi Moskowitz's Mishnah class. Bye-bye.